Sarcasm is weaponized humor. We have to make it so that people feel the point of what we're trying to say. Sarcasm, like, it packs a punch, but it's indirect, and that's how you can get your points across. Every single thing you're saying is going behind enemy lines and just doing damage. We should look at sarcasm as our friend.
Yeah.
Sarcasm is our friend, and satire and parody, those are our friends.
All right, we're here with maybe one of the funniest guys in the Christian space. It's funny being here at TPUSA Faith. There's a lot of times where people will go into that conference center, and I mean, they're rightfully so very angry about what's going on in the world.
Right.
But there's a way that we can combat the craziness in the world with a little bit of humor.
Sure.
So how do you go about that with just woke Jesus Christ and everything you do individually?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think sarcasm is weaponized humor, and we need to, if we're going to have a proper engagement with culture that is, a winning engagement where we're in it to win it. We have to weaponize. We have to take humor and we have to make it powerful. We have to make it so that people feel the point of what we're trying to say. And so, like, normal comedy is great and that's wonderful, but sarcasm, like, it packs a punch, but it's indirect. So that's how you can get your points across. Like, literally every sarcastic comment you make, it is funny, and they just refuse to laugh at it, which has got to take, a lot of self-control, because really, like, with sarcasm, you're just, every single thing you're saying is going behind enemy lines and just doing damage. And so I think we should look at sarcasm as our friend.
Yeah.
Sarcasm is our friend, and satire and parody, those are our friends. Because they also help to, as I said, indirectly communicate a point.
Yeah.
Many times we're so, we're so used to direct communication.
Like point,
Yeah, here's my
counterpoint.
point. You can't refute it. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and the intensity gets to such a fever pitch, and it feels like you're just hitting the same nail in the same way, and there is a monotony there. You know what I'm saying? If we're not careful, it can just sound like tiring.
Yeah.
But humor comes, and humor kind of livens things up, and it switches things up, and it causes there to be just a different, like catching people off guard and by surprise, and mixing it up and making it fun.
And there seems to be some sarcasm in the Bible too.
All over the place.
That's where I think sometimes they look at the Bible and they're just like, well, it just seems like it's probably just a bunch of rules and everybody taking themselves super serious.
Yeah.
Because we all really want to make it to heaven and be good people.
Yeah.
But there's times, especially when you have people that are worshiping false gods, and then you got prophets there in the Old Testament, there's just like, I'm going to mock your gods.
Yeah.
But you are not going to mock mine
Exactly.
at all. And watch, they're going to do nothing about me blaspheming your God.
Yeah.
And it's times you have to read the Bible and say, that's kind of a funny way to go about it.
Yeah, and it's humiliating for it was humiliating for the prophets of Baal, for Elijah to mock their gods at Mount Carmel, and it's like, that's the point. We're trying to expose the absurdity on the other side. We're trying to, there is a humiliating part about it, that people who refuse to be humble will be humiliated. And that's really what it is. We're mocking the hubris and the pride and the arrogance and the conceit of the other side, thinking that they are God, that they are masters of the universe and creators of reality, whatever reality they want to be a part of. And so it's,
And when you put together just these kind of analogies, like you heard from Bill Burr, when he's comparing abortion to a birthday cake. And
I never saw that one, but that's hilarious.
He had this great bit, and it's like all these people were just like, they're trying to say it's not a baby because it's not born yet. And it's like, well, let's put it this way: So I'm baking a cake, right? It's in my oven. You got the batter there. It's rising. Someone pulls open the oven. They throw it all on the ground. And you say, you ruined my birthday cake. They're like, it's not a cake yet. Okay. And you hear things like that. And the other side,
Wow,
you have
that's
to
good.
like laugh at yourself because you put it in a humorous way where obviously you got a lot of people. I was out in front of the Supreme Court. There's people shouting here, there's people shouting there, but you have someone like Bill Burr. It's like you break it down in this analogy. It's like, this actually is very silly.
Right.
But can't we laugh at this and also find a lot of truth in this comedy as well to make a way forward?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean that's a perfect example, right? He's taking something that you would never, juxtapose with abortion or parallel with it, and he's creating a scenario that's hilarious, but that gets the point across in a very practical but profound way. And again, so sarcasm, he's hunting there. You see, he's hunting. It's not just pure comedy. It's a form of comedy that actually has the ability to take down arguments opposed to it.
And one of my favorite woke Jesus Christ memes was there's a bunch of people making their way up to heaven, and you basically have someone welcoming them, like an angel. It's just like, thank you all who are boosted and social justice warriors, like Wakanda forever. I read that. I feel like I shared that to as many of my Christian friends as possible, because you have to read something like that and be like, this is hilarious, because it seems like this is almost tenets or doctrines of a religion that's being pushed from the left right now.
Yes.
And they're trying to put it together in a way that says, this is actually a way you can get to heaven.
Yes.
Come on our side a little bit. Your pastor's talking about it, right?
Yes.
Where he's diving in that a little bit. Like,
yes.
Welcome to heaven. This will get you there too.
Yeah, with woke Jesus, the idea is that they're creating an alternative Christ, right? They're creating an alternative Jesus and an alternative religion, because really, the most profound thing about a culture is its religion. The most profound thing about a civilization is its religion, and our religion is Christianity. That's the thing that has made us what we are, for better, for worse, But so really, you can't really be pure pagan in our society. You can really only ever be anti-Christian, and that's the interesting thing about it is they have to deal with the same ideas and archetypes that we have, except they're fake and they're a poor alternative. They're the no-name brand for our authentic, real truth. And so with woke Jesus, it's very easy to just kind of take the opposite of what is the truth and put that in the words of Christ, and expose how how they would think about this. And it's hilarious. The final product is hilarious because you're just like, this is exactly the way they probably would think that Jesus would it's the way that it's wishful thinking, truly wishful thinking, because they really want Jesus to say these things, but obviously he says like the key to woke Jesus is just understanding that everything being communicated is actually the opposite of the truth, and for some people who are just like, I don't get it, just think of the opposite of what's being said and you'll get it. So
something I want to get your live reaction from is, we've seen a lot of videos of people, changing up lyrics to songs like, oh, how much she loves us, or they love us. And I could only just fathom what goes on in those meetings with the worship team. Like, all right, guys, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the world,
right?
Gender stuff. How do we incorporate that in the song?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, perfect. That will help us
make
really
it more
reach
relatable. Yeah.
But this one, I saw this poet. No idea what her name is, but she says, God is queer, and I need you to listen to the rest of this one here.
My God is a queer God. Is a queer space.
Oh.
Is a safer space. Is in allyship with the us because my God is self-reflexive and knows that it is not always a safe space for everyone at every moment. And it may be an ally to one entity and a trigger to another. So my God is working in solidarity with everything all at once, and that capacity doesn't fit inside a body box. My God is outside the outside of a timeless clock. My God is indefatigable. My God is intersectional. My God is awake and alert and stays woke because it once created the universe and it still encompasses the earth. My God knows that it is not always seen as a God, that not everyone blesses how it transforms day into night and back and sometimes forward. And my God knows that it is questioned and doubted and questioned and shamed and pushed back and called out and called in again. My God rocks transformative justice.
And
Wow.
I think
How long does that go on for?
So she goes on for like another minute. Obviously, she's going to use some more big words and everything.
My God.
And
that's the key phrase. My God.
And that's what I feel like exactly everybody is doing right now. That's almost like what you're doing with woke Jesus Christ is like, oh, this is my own Jesus. This is my own
Send that
God.
to me because
Yeah.
there's tons of content in there for me.
It's unbelievable because I just say my God stays woke, and I'm like, I'm sure he does,
Yeah.
but that's not the God of the Bible,
Yeah.
at all. But there's times like we can react to that in a humorous way instead of like, all right, well, here, let me break this down theologically of like why this is wrong. It's like,
Well, exactly. You can't engage that with you can engage it seriously, and you can answer it, with proper theology and correcting all the theological points. Of course, that can be done, but it's so completely absurd what she's saying that really the best way to engage it is to just laugh at the absurdity, just laugh at the ridiculousness of what she's saying, and if something's ridiculous, it's subject to ridicule, and so we should ridicule that and laugh it away because it's nonsense. It really is. And so. I just don't think that, I think humor, I think this is one of the beautiful things about our faith is that, Christianity, we can laugh. We can, there's a humility to humor.
we can make fun of ourselves.
Yes, we can laugh at even ourselves, exactly. And, you'll notice that other religions struggle with this very severely in certain circumstances. But in Christianity, we can just engage with, I think, just that humorous, fun-loving way that really, exposes things for what they are. And so I think I look at that and I don't rage inside
Don't
of
have
that.
a visceral reaction.
No, I don't want to throw her, off of a rooftop or something. What I want to do is just laugh at it and maybe put it on woke Jesus and use some satire to truly just expose how ridiculous it is, and engage it on the level of ridiculousness, because that's really the only level it's on.
How do you think people should be reacting to some of the stuff that we're seeing in church now? Like we have someone named Britta Filter that's going down the main aisle of an Episcopal church in New York.
Okay.
And
I saw this video.
It's a drag queen.
Right. Exactly.
And then you got poets like this. You got people that are changing up their lyrics of songs to add in gendered language.
Yep.
And you got Duke Divinity School that's doing basically like a pride worship service. How should people be reacting to this stuff, and how can we minister to people that are in those circles and think that it's okay to have that in the house of God?
Well, look, at some point, yes, there's a line to be drawn, even with taking things in a lighthearted way. So I can watch something like that and be not disturbed at all. But then when something takes place that's sacrilegious in terms of its the context of it, I do think it is sacrilege, and it is blasphemous to enter into a church and start desecrating a holy place like that. And I think and taking things that are meant to be or for the purpose of worship of God and using them in such a vulgar and evil way, I think that is sacrilege. And so I do think that there should be limits. I do think we need to toughen up We need to loosen up and toughen up in different ways and in different areas. And I would say toughening up when it comes to, how these things take place in church. I don't think there should be any tolerance. I think there should be zero tolerance for places of worship where sacrilege is concerned. I think that if there's an issue of sacrilege, people should stand outside of the doors of the church. They do that in Europe. I've seen videos of people standing outside of churches praying and refusing to let these people inside of the church. And I think that's heroic, and I think that's awesome. And so I do think that there's again just a simultaneous kind of loosening up on things that are laughable and ridiculous, but also toughening up on things that where we should be holding the line when it comes to how things are conducted in our churches. And because these churches, especially the Episcopal Church that you mentioned in New York and things like that, these churches have been invaded. It's like Byzantium in being invaded by Muslims, in the 11th century. It's like there's a crusade that needs to take place from the West, within the West, because even the West is being invaded. These churches have been invaded by wickedness, by woke, evil, doctrines and practices. And so the remaining churches need to wake up and awaken from their slumber, as the scripture says, and to really stand guard and be sober-minded about what's going on, and within their bodies, pastors need to be sober-minded about these things, and they really do need to begin to look at themselves as spiritual warriors and engage in spiritual warfare. And part of spiritual warfare is obviously, taking thoughts captive, taking false doctrines captive, and being aware of what Christian orthodoxy is, and being able to defend it, as the epistle of 1 Peter says, being able to defend your faith.
My favorite verse, 1 Peter 3:15.
1 Peter 3:15, which is where we get the word apologetics from, the apologia, the defense of our faith. And so I would say pastors it's a time of war in the spiritual realm. It's a time to put on the armor of God like never before and ride out into battle. We need pastors who are knights in armor, who are going to lead their men into battle. And so, and that's, the Apostle Paul is the perfect example of this, because he was constantly at war with various groups and factions, and he would always engage. He would always be precise in his engagement, and the Apostle Paul is a wonderful example to follow of how to engage within spiritual warfare and in battle, and to be sober-minded and to strategically advance and move forward and protect the Church of God.
And then how do we fight back? We fight back with the word, but it seems like right now a lot of people are eisegesing the Bible.
Yes.
So they think they have a valuable weapon, but it doesn't seem to be working the way they thought it was.
Yes.
So they're blatantly just taking text out of context, and they're wondering why there's no sort of cultural shift or value or purpose from that. And I think especially too when it comes to the abortion topic. I mean, if you just go to the original text, you'll realize that Jesus, unborn Jesus, and born Jesus, you're using the same word there, but people aren't doing that research anymore. And do you think that's just a Western culture thing, that we're just waiting for people to tell us what it is and how it is? Or where did this start, where we're just starting to say, I feel like my worldview or my feelings, that's what I'm taking out of the text? Where'd that come from, do you think?
Particularly on the abortion issue?
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's a lack of training, right? It's a lack of being able to articulate a response based on, not being trained in it. I think so I started an organization called TheosU University, And at Theos University, we train pastors and we train Christians how to articulate their response to these issues. And it's very necessary, regardless of the organization. Part of the reason why we started it is because seminaries have disengaged from culture. At a seminary, you should be able to come out being able to articulate your, arguments against abortion and arguments for a pro-life position. But pastors are coming out of seminary with no ability to do that, and that's when the eisegesis takes place, and when the kind of cultural popularity contest takes place, and they're like, well, which, or just even the silence on it. Yep. The silence on abortion is deafening, and so we need to properly engage with learning from people who can properly educate us. Scott Klusendorf, I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
He's written a book on the case for life, I believe. It's a wonderful resource. So pastors, I would just recommend buying books on the abortion issue. Peter Kraft, Dr. Peter Kraft, a great Christian apologist. He has a book, 3 Approaches to Abortion, that I've used, in teaching a class on abortion for Theos University, just helping me articulate a response. But we also need to be precise, and we do suffer from a lack of precision, unfortunately, in a lot of things. But if we don't have precision in our response, we're not going to be. We're chopping with a dull axe, So we want to keep ourselves sharp, and so I think that that self education is totally possible, especially with the internet. It's amazing. But just getting order the books, watch the YouTube clips. However you can self educate, do it, and become better equipped to answer those questions.
And then I attended the virtual conference with Theos.
Oh, Theos conference, yeah.
I thought it was fantastic.
Thank
and then
you.
what you guys are doing there, I think it's fairly similar to kind of what's happening here. Like the fact that you can
Yes.
bring people together and people that might not necessarily be in the same circle, the same room. Like along those lines, what are you thinking about the first few days here at the Pastor Summit?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the vision that Charlie has for this issue, particularly of gathering pastors together, it's a wonderful vision, and I think the results speak for themselves. A lot of my friends are here, a lot of pastors are here, and they're just excited about uniting. Uniting the clans, and it's
Together.
like together. I do think it's an interesting to switch analogies. Like J.R. Tolkien writes the Lord of the Rings, right? And
I love J.R.
right,
Tolkien.
and it's such a great fantasy, but I also think it's not just fantasy; it's prophecy, because I do think that like what he was talking about is happening kind of now. Mordor is on the march. And what we need to do is gather together as people of Middle Earth. We need to get even the people we disagree with to a degree. I mean, I like to look at the Calvinists as the dwarves, they're angry all the time.
They delve too deep and too greedily.
And it's one of those things. It's like, we're kind of odd bedfellows, in this sense. We're odd partners in this area, but we have to unite according to our common ground in Christianity, and set aside, doctrinal differences that are not essential to the gospel, that are not essential. Charlie got up and said, "I believe in the Nicene Creed," and it's like that's essential. Yep. That's essential doctrine. And so when we gather around the essentials, right? I love what St. Augustine said. He said, in essentials, unity; in non-essentials, liberty; in all things, love. And so we really have to understand that, like, I love the point. I think he made another point saying, like, yeah, I mean, you can continue to argue about this stuff and make this stuff the thing, or like the finer points of doctrine that we disagree, premillennial, amillennial, blah, 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 postmillennial. We can continue to agree or disagree about cessationism or whatever, but basically it's like that's an argument you'll be having in prison if you don't unite. And so really, like, the issue is the survival of Christendom is really what we're talking about. And so we have to understand that, like, okay, like, this is a family feud, Protestantism, even Protestantism versus Catholicism. I would, to be honest with you, I'd love to see more Catholic priests here. I really would. Even Orthodox priests. I would love to see more of that. I've already seen some Catholic priests, but I would love to see more interaction between, even those larger groups, because that's, the issue is the survival of our family. It's a family feud, but let's keep the family alive here.
And I'll be honest, you opened up the floodgates with Lord of the Rings here. So,
okay, great.
So when you say that, I think of Rohan.
Okay.
So it's just like Gondor calls for aid. So it's like, well, where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
Yes.
So it seems like it's one of these things right here where it's like, are you guys going to team up against an enemy here and put your differences aside and figure out, because there's a war, there's little battles happening, but there's a major war to come, it feels like.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's like the collision of two weather systems. It's going to happen. It's two weather systems that are heating, that are both doing their own thing, and there's a clash that's coming, and a collision that's coming, and so we need to be prepared, and we need to be aware of that, because we have unreconcilable differences with people who are anti-Christ. It's the spirit of anti-Christ, right? And it's the spirit of anti-Christianity, anti-freedom, anti-life. And so in that sense, we have to realize that, like, this is a transcendental battle, right? This is a battle of ultimate reality. And so it's not just, it's like America is a part of this, but so is Canada, so is Europe in that sense. Our Western civilization, really Christendom in that sense, is a part of this, and we're fighting, within ourselves. It's a civil war within ourselves. We're not being invaded by Muslims. We're not being invaded by Vikings. We're not being invaded we're self-destructing, right? And so this is the issue. We have to win back the hearts of our people. We have to turn fathers and sons back towards each other, and that's really, I think, the issue at hand. So,
if you were gonna pinpoint one person that's alive right now, and you say they are the modern day Saruman, who would you say that person is?
Dr. Fauci. I mean, that's just a wild guess.
Yeah.
That's a wild guess. Who's the guy? Who's the guy who talks about overpopulation all the time? I don't know. Or Bill
Gates. I think Bill Gates talks about overpopulation.
Yeah, there you go. He's
Saruman.
He's runner up.
My final
George
question,
Soros. I don't know.
Soros actually might be.
Can we say that?
And then I would maybe like to think of, who would be Grima Wormtongue? I'm trying to think of.
That's good.
That might have to be Pelosi.
That's good. Yes. That's very fitting. Absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
Final question for you though is, I got a Bible study with my boys, and there's times where everyone that prays differently and has a relationship with God differently, and I think there's times where we can pray a sincere prayer that almost has like a little bit of like sarcasm and humor to it. There still has to be a sense of like reverence, obviously, in our prayer and the way we interact with God. But I always tell the guys, I would have to think, I go up to heaven. Obviously, I want to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But the second thing I'd want to hear is, You know what, John? There's a few funny jokes in there. I did laugh a few times. So, like, what do you think your interaction with Christ would be, especially since, like, a lot of your life has been about, making people laugh, but still equip them with sound theology and hopefully turn into saved souls?
Are you talking about like on an eternal level? Like when
Level.
at the pearly gates?
Yes.
What's my relationship with the Lord going to be? I mean, it's an interesting thing. The Apostle John, it says that he was like one of the most intimate disciples with Christ, right? He kind of like, was the closest person to Christ, put his head on Christ's shoulder or whatever. And it says that in the book of Revelation, in chapter 1, he saw Jesus, and this was the Jesus that he hung out with and he was buddies with. And and again, like the most loyal disciple. He was at the cross when all the other guys were running away. John sees Jesus in his glory in Revelation 1, and it says that he fell down as though he were dead. So I do think, like, there's a place and there's a context for like friendship with Christ, and John had that. But there was also a place where we understand that Christ is King, and that the buddy thing is only in a context, because ultimately we have to like understand that Christ is the King of the universe, that he's like, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and his eyes are burning fire, and it's like it's scary. Yeah. He has the voice of many waters, like a thundering, powerful, incredible voice. And so John, this guy who knows Christ so intimately, falls down as though he were dead. So it's like there's an awe, right? There's an awe and there's a reverence that should honestly cause us to have greater wonder and greater love and respect for who Christ is. And so it's like that. I mean, again, it also goes back to like, wow, and Jesus, with all of that power and authority and incredible prestige and royalty, would lower himself and befriend John. There's two things there, right? It's a paradox. It's the lion and the lamb. It's the lion and the lamb. So there's a paradox there. There's a tension there. And I would hope that, there would be that tension in my relationship with the Lord as well. But again, I never want to lose the tension. I never want to lose that paradox of that we're talking about a lion who's not tame, as C.S. Lewis said, but a lamb who is also the Son of God and Savior of the world, and Emmanuel, God with us. So there's a tension there, but it's mystical. I don't know how to really answer that.
Well, I'm excited to find out.
Okay, great. Yeah, me too, for sure.
And then where can people follow you and everything?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram for now until they delete my second account. That's
2.0,
after
right?
they deleted my first account. Yeah, so I'm at Gabriel Finochio 2.0, probably soon to be 3.0. And then Theos University at Instagram. We're at Theos University, and TheosU.ca is our website, and that's pretty much that's all the socials that I have. I mean, as you can see, I'm not really a social guy.
I appreciate the time, though.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to some more conversation.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks so much.